Wherefore, Part 19. For some months now, the full moon has been an exciting prospect for Elizabeth, as it means her badger boy will show up in the garden. This month feels different somehow. There is a tremulous flutter of expectation in her stomach. It sends tendrils of excitement shooting all over her body. Her toes wriggle with it, and there's a growing sensation of digging in. As moonrise gets ever closer, Elizabeth feels compelled to take her clothes off. How liberating it feels to bare her skin in this way, how natural and sensual. She dances around the kitchen for a while out of sheer joy. As Elizabeth steps from the kitchen into the night, she sees her neighbours, Simon and Philip, going naked into their own garden. She feels happy solidarity with them. Clearly this is a shared feeling, as both gentlemen give her a cheery wave. Picking a nice bit of dirt, Elizabeth settles down for the night. Her toes are soil-seeking, becoming roots as her feet and ankles adopt the form of rhizomes. This is her first shift. It is so gentle she barely notices the changes. The tough stalks of her normal self are cooked down into soft possibility and reconfigured, through who knows what intelligence, into this tasty new form. The soil is so good, deliciously full of nutrients, holding her in a comforting way. Her leaves cannot do much with moonlight, but it has a delicate touch and is a delight nonetheless. Her stalks are so full, so juicy. She feels very rich, very blessed. Just existing in this way is an absolute pleasure. Elizabeth has a keen sense of many other roots in soil, a world of underground enchantment as people become plant and reach out to each other in new ways, a network of potential that by its nature must be free from violence and jealousy. There is no room at root level for the everyday cruelties of human life. The soil is far too generous to allow that. In this form, one can only be glorious, and full of appreciation for the gloriousness and gorgeousness everyone else has as well. A rhubarb cannot be ugly. It is only ever perfectly itself. A stalk cannot be too wide or too tall or even too small for that matter. A leaf of any size is perfect. A leaf in moonlight or a whole profusion of leaves can only be wonderful. His name, as you will recall, is a 3-second throaty growl followed by a high-pitched yip. He has been wondering about a human name for his monthly adventures, but conversations with the wizard Wigstan have not been entirely helpful. Wigstan has suggested all kinds of names like Arnold MacGuffin, Edward Winmund, Cornelius Dashwood Hedge. Badger Boy does not feel that he properly understands human naming systems yet. Even so, he suspects that the wizard Wigstan is being less than perfectly helpful. Badger Boy has found it is better to get up early when the shift is coming. There are many things in this process he has no control over, but if he can down the first meal of the night and get to the garden first, he has an easier time of it. He does not want to get stuck in the hedge, and his human form definitely does not handle hedges well. Humans have ways of getting about that relate to their ungainly bodies, but are a bit daft in his experience. Still, he finds the novelty of it all amusing. No wonder humans are a bit odd, with all this distance they like to put between their heads and the ground. They do not know what is happening right under their feet, and this explains a lot about them. He enters the garden as a badger, pleased with himself. There is still time to snuffle about in the grass a bit, so he does that. The garden smells odd. The night smells odd. He can feel something in his pores, but before he has chance to investigate, the change starts. He is stripped of his senses and body knowing and put into this largely useless second skin. How can they do so much damage with these bodies? How he can't smell anything much, and his feelings of knowing are much reduced. He stretches and tries to get comfortable in this newborn baby skin that lacks for fur. Something is wrong. The badger inside the man is not entirely lost. Some semblance of his properly feeling animal self remains. He pulls on it, tries to bring the badger back through the sad limitations of the human to make sense of what is happening. He can't afford to let those head-in-the-air human impulses take him over entirely. He concentrates on his feet, on the soil beneath him, on his own essential badgerness. Then he tries again to make sense of what is wrong. He has a strong feeling of Elizabeth's presence and absence all at the same time. This human body isn't equal to the complexities of the situation, but he tries his best with it. Elizabeth is here, except that she has changed. She is a plant, but not a plant. This is confusing. He sits down next to her so they can be closer on the soil. Not that he can read the soil even if he puts his hands on it, but it still feels better. "Hello," he says, because he has learned a few human words now. Elizabeth in plant form does not answer, or if she does, he cannot hear her with this body. He is confused. Has she chosen this? What does it mean? What does she want? She smells edible, but that seems wrong. He knows a bit about the were-rhubarb issue, both from Wigstown and the Badger Elders, and he realises this must be what has happened to her. It is the why of it that bothers him. He keens the question for a while, singing it to the night air, making the badger noises as best this face will allow. Why? It makes no sense. Why? It serves no purpose. Why? What if there is no why? What if everything happening to him is pointless and meaningless? This brings him up short. He knows this is a rite of passage. It is the moment when you leave cubhood behind forever and become your adult self. It is the moment when you have to look deep into your badger heart and make the reason for your being, even as the universe refuses to offer meaning to you. He squares his shoulders. He will make meaning out of this because he is a badger, and this is what badgers do. Elizabeth is not usually a morning person, but she wakes up feeling fantastic. When she stretches, there is no hint of age creeping into her body. Opening her eyes, she sees Badger Boy sat next to her, his face shifting from worry to delight to Badger. She hardly has time to gather herself before he is back in his fur. Normally he saunters off at this point, but today he stays and just looks at her. His expression seems mournful. The euphoria she woke with melts away, leaving disquiet and worry in its place. Something has gone wrong. She can see it in his eyes. Elizabeth has no memory of how they spent the night. Her toes are dirty. She is naked. There are no blankets. Excuse me. The flower bed is an odd choice as a seat. This is not what should have happened. She feels a bit sick. It is the bemusement as much as anything else. She reaches out to touch Badger Boy on the head. His fur is rough and wiry, but he nuzzles affectionately against her hand. It is reassuring. She leans in and kisses the top of his head, surprised by the emotions surfacing in her. She is so glad he is here. Even in badger form, there is comfort in touching him, and a sense of connection between them, as though there is more between them than the delight to be had from his human body in the moonlight, as though this is deeper and more significant. They gaze into each other's eyes. Woman and badger. It might be love.